All right. That's Dylan on the drums, and Scott, and Martha. Oh, you just happen to be in the right place today. Might as well stand up. Take a look at the person next to you. Say, I recognize the light in you. Feel the love in the sanctuary. Now lift your voice and sing with me. We come together. We come together. We come together in the name of love. Let me hear it. We come together. We come together. We come together in the name of. You sing it. We come together. more time. We come together. We come together in the name of love.
Thank you, Robert. I love what he said. You're in the right place. It feels like it. We're in the right place. So welcome. I'm Shireen Hill. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces. That's exciting. So if you're new here, we do have Deb at the welcome desk who has a welcome packet, and in there are a lot of things about who we are as Unity, but also a free gift for our bookstore if you'd like to stop by there. And if you're online in the virtual sanctuary, you can do the same thing at unitydenver.org and then click on New to Unity. So don't be too sad, but no announcements today. I know. We're thinking that this pink piece of paper in the bulletin will call your attention to all of the exciting things that we have going on. If you're online, we have all these exciting things also at unitydenver.org, mostly under our featured events. So take a moment to check those things out. And so what I will do now is take us into a moment of going through our creed. And this is something that we read together. So there'll be a slide there if you would like to read along with me. Our God is love. Our race is human. Our faith is oneness. Okay. So today, Trish is wrapping up a 5-part series on the 5 principles, which my book is very well earmarked, and we do have a group that meets on Wednesday to discuss that. You're still welcome to join us if you'd like at 12:30 here. But I'd like to do the reading for today, which is from the last chapter, chapter 5, which happens to be titled Expressing God. And here's the reading. At last, we put principles into action. These teachings would be useless if not practiced in the real world. But notice, 4 of the 5 principles are about shifting consciousness before changing behavior. Even the 5th principle says, live the truth, which may or may not mean charging out to save the planet. The good news is that we cannot not live the truth. It is a spiritual law. It applies to everyone all the time. We are the divine in expression every day. We are creating our experience with every thought and feeling. We are in prayer without ceasing, communing with an exquisitely responsive universe in abundant good. The goal is to live consciously in that awareness and to take action as guided by our inner being, even knowing that we often express imperfectly. Living the truth is more than about being than doing. It is how we show up for whatever we choose to do, whether we are a business executive, stay-at-home parent, healer, teacher, or homeless wanderer. When we are living the truth, any action we take will be from a consciousness of spirit and oneness with ego in service to soul.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Switching things up a little bit. I will have a few quick announcements at the end of the service for those of you who are hyperventilating right now. So we're just changing up the order a little bit, see how it goes. For those of you who don't know me, I am Trish Morris, serving here as your spiritual leader. Please feel free to stop by and say hello to me after the service, introduce yourself. I'd love to meet you. And so, as we've collected here together and we have assembled, we will, sometimes the things that I say, I want to just move us right into a place of connection in prayer as we move forward this morning. And so we'll begin by ringing the singing bowl that is, as I've mentioned every week, tuned to our heart chakra. So we let this sound resonate through us, and just take a deep breath. Let yourself arrive here fully, and invite your body to relax as you open your heart and mind.
Surely the presence of love is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of love is in this place.
Just invite you to take a deep breath into this space where we do feel the power and the presence of love. And just invite your body to relax, taking a deep breath, and allowing your focus to become present right here, right now. As much as possible, releasing anything that awaits you today or anything that has already come before you, just releasing that to be right here, right now. As we begin to release our thoughts of the world around us, we connect more deeply with the world within us, the presence of divine love that resides within each one of us as our true nature. And so as we breathe into that place and space, we feel the support and the peace and the guidance that is always within us as we connect with that divine truth, expressing divine intelligence and life and love through us. And so as we ground in that truth and that awareness, we are better suited to meet any challenges we may be experiencing. We call upon that divine intelligence, that divine life that heals and restores, that divine love that harmonizes and renews, and that divine wisdom that guides us from a higher level, from a spiritual level of discernment and judgment. And so we breathe into that, and we hold it all. We bring into this time and space those on our hearts and minds, and certainly all that is happening in our world. We bring it into this awareness that within all of that is also that divine intelligence, that divine life, that divine love, and that divine wisdom. And we relax a bit knowing that. And as we prepare to move through our morning and through our day and through our week, we are constantly reminded to connect to this place of knowing, to ground in that truth so that we can respond rather than react to all that is happening around us and within us. So we take a deep breath and we give thanks for the opportunity to know this, to learn this, to grow into our awareness of who and what we are as expressions of divine life right here, right now. And so it is. Amen.
I love with the heart of God within me. I sing with the voice of God within me. I rest in the peace of God within me. Everything praises God within me. I know with the mind of God within me. I trust in the power of God within me. I pray with the faith of God within me. Everything praises God within me. I am a safe and loving place, born of beauty and amazing grace. I am, yes I am. I laugh with the joy of God within me. I shine with the light of God within me. I am who I am 'cause of God within me. Everything praises God within me. I am a safe and loving place, born of beauty and amazing grace. I am, yes I am. I laugh with the joy of God within me. I shine with the light of God within me. Yes, I am who I am 'cause of God within me. Everything praises God. Everything praises God. Everything praises God within me.
Thank you, Robert. Everything within me praises God within me. Remember what the 5 principles are? We ready? All right, that's the one. Number 1, God is all. Nature of God is. Number 2, human beings are an expression of that God and therefore are inherently good. Number 3, thoughts and feelings. We use our thoughts and feelings to create our experience. We take control on them. We use those powerfully and mindfully and purposefully, the nature of our thoughts and feelings. Number 4, prayer and meditation are the highest forms of those thoughts. Highest form of thought because we are aligning our mind with divine mind and imbuing our mind with divine ideas. And number 5 is action. It's not enough to know these things, we are called to live them. And as the reading sort of indicated, I've always thought that that means I will jump into action and be the front of the march and run for office and do those bigger things. It might. And more likely, what it's meant for me is that how I even evaluate all that I do and how I show up is different. Which does, in fact, make a difference in the world and may, in fact, employ me to do bigger and broader things from this truth that I know. I want to make a clarifying point because I sort of, as I can do, I sort of joked through it, which sometimes I need to learn not to do that when it's important, like God is absolute good. Well, ice cream is good, I said. But I was trying to make a point, I just don't think I finished it. So I'd like to go back to that and say, when we're talking about absolute good, and I included this in the writing in my blog on Friday, the clarifying quotes from Lessons in Truth I thought hit the nail right on the head. Emily Cady says this: God is the name we give to that unchangeable, inexorable principle at the source of all existence. God is not a being or person having life, intelligence, love, or power. God is that invisible, intangible, but very real something we call life. God is perfect love and infinite power. God is the total sense, the total of all these. So the total of all good. It becomes limited in our relative realm, right? Because so we can think of God in the absolute. That's what we often do in metaphysics with the capital A. Before it's in any form, it is absolute good. Still, always absolute good, but as it comes into the confines of time and space through us, it's relative now. It's relative, we hold it accountable, sort of, or I was going to say hostage, to time and space, because we can only kind of envision so much of it, hold so much of it, and we are still bound here in time and space. Ed Rabel, who is a great metaphysical teacher, says this, that God is the only total dependable that there is, because God cannot be changed. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about absolute good. It's not, and then because the inevitable is, well, how come these bad things are happening if God is absolute good and in and through everything, including us? Because we have a choice of how we live, right? How we use this creative power, how we navigate this experience together, and how we use that creative power that we've been learning about, our thinking and feeling nature, in service of good or in service of fear or separation. And I think individually we can experience that. We know that, yes? We can say, oh yeah, when I'm sort of plugged into fear and lack and conservation and protection, I don't always show up the fullest. When I trust that this is the truth of who I am, that I am an expression of absolute good, there is that of me that even though I am in this time and space, there is that of me that will continue and has continued, that essence of me, that eternal reflection of that absolute good. So that is what we're calling on when we're living the truth that we know. That's what we are starting with, that there is in this experience no true power at the level of that is in competition with that level of absolute good. That is sort of our limited expression of it. So how can we grow into what that means? How do we live every day if we are an expression of absolute good, divine love, divine life? The truth of us. The world doesn't always uphold that, does it? I don't know what world you're living in, but it certainly does not hold this notion that we are not only one with God, but as such expressions of the one source, we are intimately connected one with each other, all of humanity. And so, divine mind is not confined in time and space, but we are in our humanity. And we're called, what we're learning in this is that our divine essence is not, for it is of God and is eternally true. And that is the part of us that is not changing. It's incorruptible. It's unchangeable. And through, I think part of what is being revealed in this time of sort of unraveling and unrest and uncertainty is that we may have put a little too much weight in our humanity. And we are finding now that we have these experiences where greed and control and corruption, are really being exposed, not just politically, but in the church. We're hearing about more and more. So these systems that are based, I think, have gotten confused and are serving the ego, not our spiritual truth. And that's what's being revealed. So it's like, oh man, bummer. And every news story is like, oh boy, that one now? But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to realize how that has gotten misconstrued and how to realign. And it starts with each one of us. And I think, as Ellen points out, as each one of us do our part in living this truth that we know in our own experiences, in our own communities, in our own families, we are making a difference to that sort of mass consciousness, what's possible for all of humanity. We are bringing that vibrational possibility up so that it feels perhaps like we're swimming upstream, but there's more swimmers, and the stream gets a little bit less choppy. The other thing that I think we're realizing is that, well, let me say this. When we're talking about our essence, this truth of us that we're living from, we're not talking about our personality or our opinions or our affiliations or our identities. We're also not talking about our weaknesses or our failures or our addictions those are the experiences we have, I'm starting to think, as a result of not being able to deal with the cognitive dissonance of who we are and what this world reflects to us and demands of us and confines in us. And I noticed that in many ways it certainly does not honor and nurture this truth of us that is a divine individualized expression of the source. How do we live if that's how we were seeing one another and ourselves? We can't hardly do it for ourselves. Who's got that mastered? Yeah, I'm it. Because we think we're our personalities and our judgments and our faults, even if we're righteous about them. So that is what it means. That's what we're working with, to put our ego in service to our soul, to live the truth that we know. As Ellen says, the 5 principles provide steps to lead us from ego to soul, from living unconsciously to living in an awareness of truth. Truth is a spiritual law, just like mathematics. It doesn't change. The truth of who you are as an expression of divine life, no matter what you've done or haven't done, is true and pure and available to you. It's the nature of who you are. living the truth that we know doesn't necessarily catapult us into saving the world, but it does and can lead to us sort of saving ourselves, having a better experience for ourselves, not from a selfish way, but to limit that dissidence, yes? To know there's something more of me, there's something more of what we're doing here. I believe in this creative universe. I believe in absolute good. I see. Here's the other thing she says as a news reporter. The news is meant to be noticeable. You don't hear about all the good stuff. That's not the purpose of the news. So take your news in bits and chunks. Again, I don't believe we should ever put our head in the sand. We need to know what's happening. But don't take that 2% to mean the 90%. Everything's in hell in a handbasket, right? And here's the other thing that she says to remind us that people go about how they live the truth that they know. This is the truth, by the way. There's no other truth. The truth that we're learning to live is that we are expressions of God, not the super being, the energetic essence of all these things that we know as divine ideas, love, harmony, wisdom, all of those things. We are expressions of that. That is the truth by which we want to live our life, regardless of what CNN or Facebook or anybody else says. And it takes some diligence, right? And it takes some commitment to principle number 4, taking time in the silence, taking time to align our hearts and our minds with this higher truth that we say we know. Letting that imbue our thinking nature and our feeling nature. And so how we go about living that will look differently. People do it differently. Some people do that by showing up for 20 years reading books to kids in public school. Some people, like I said, are at the front of the march. Some people spend an hour a day in conscious prayer, holding that truth for humanity, holding that there is good working in and through all things. So how we live that truth is pretty independent. The important thing to remember is it begins first and foremost in consciousness as we're working through really aligning with the truth of this so that it infiltrates all that we do and say in all aspects, not just the big ones, so to speak. I always remember Eckhart Tolle said, when you think you are spiritually advanced, you're sure you've got it, go spend a week with your family. So, that's literally where we can start the work, and it's often the hardest, because we're all embedded and we've got the personalities and the buttons and all the things. That's where we really are called. And we'll have an experience during meditation to sort of take a situation and see how you can implement these principles along the way. So Ellen reminds us that action includes our thoughts and feelings. We contribute to the whole. Remember, everything is sort of energy to begin with, right? And so the nature of, are we holding on to fear? Are we holding on to lack, competition, whatever that is? Or are we holding on to the fullness of love, which is a different feeling and thinking experience? And it contributes to the whole, to that mass consciousness that we talk about. And so because we learned in Principle 3 that the universe responds sort of to the same vibration that we hold, that we want to be mindful of what we're holding. She makes a point to say, be careful that you don't misunderstand support for resistance. If you're wanting to support a cause, so you're wanting to support perhaps world peace, but you're doing anti-war work. It's really subtle, but energetically, you want to be a stand for peace. And how you do that looks a little different than when you're anti something. And again, the idea there is that the universe is corresponding to your energetic vibration. It doesn't know the words. No, I didn't mean that. I was against that, right? So we want to be very clear what we're for as we work with these principles. So whatever we focus on, we empower, is the principle there. And so you might ask, and some of you have, well, why are we focusing on our differences? Why are we celebrating Juneteenth, or why are you having people go down to the gay pride walk? I don't think that's what they call it anymore. I'm aging myself. And I see that as honoring and supporting the variety of ways that the divine expresses through humanity. And it's not really a focus on the differences, in my understanding, as much. Well, and let me say this. Yes, we are expressions of the one, but we don't express the same way. None of us are, we all look sort of similar in here, but we have very different experiences. Yes? And so that is actually a richness of the complexity of divine life expressing. Somehow we've construed it to be something that is scary, or something that we shouldn't talk about, or something that if we talk about too much, it's going to get contagious. And the truth is, these people in these experiences have suffered, and they've suffered in the name of religion. And so for me, standing in the truth that we know is saying, I see you. I see you, I celebrate you, I support you. I don't have your experience, perhaps. No one's saying, and by the way, you don't have to do any of this. This is just opportunities to move out into the world, to bring your this truth that you're working on, that we are all expressions of the one source, and to step into places and spaces that don't look like you, that don't love like you, that don't maybe even vote like you. That's how, to me, that's how we're going to do this. It's really crucial. And again, those particular venues or these events that we're offering, that you don't have to do any of that. But just so you know, that is not, in my mind, and it's not an effort to focus on our differences, but to honor the different expressions of humanity and to stand that is all acceptable, and that I actually support you. I'm not holding true to any systems or ideas that would minimize your experience or marginalize your experience. So that's my answer to that. And why are we talking about race? That comes up a lot. And so I say, this was a realization for me, just because we don't talk about something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I think we've tried that in various ways. Again, not to focus on our differences, but to recognize that there are different lived experiences. And in order to really address that, I got to know a little bit about it. I've got to be willing to say, tell me about your experience. It's not mine, and it's so different, sometimes I can't believe it. And take ownership of that. I know that in my household, what we don't want to talk about is usually something we need to talk about. I'll never forget our middle son coming home, holding back the tears, very unusual. And I was the one that happened to be going through the living room, going back to bed. It's never in the waking hours that this happens. I said, what's going on? I just don't want to talk about it. I said, okay, well, I'm here for you when you want to talk about it. Went back down. Heidi said, oh, no, nothing ever comes out of not talking about it. We're going to talk about it. Okay. It was a breaking up of a girlfriend. But, that's so true. Nothing ever gets better by not talking about it. It festers. And it gets more cloudy and more weird. So I mentioned to you, I made that statement pretty clearly a few weeks ago, that really that I wanted to affirm and take a stand that unity stands in oneness with all people, and we are not, we will speak out when incidents occur that threaten other people's lives and livelihood, and that was in response to the shootings in Buffalo. And I want to say that, all of these things, race, sexual orientation, all of this, gender identity now, are human constructs. They don't exist in divine mind. They don't exist. They're what we've agreed upon to sort of navigate this human experience, and they've helped us make sense of things, and we've misunderstood them, and we've misplaced them. And so it's helpful to address that. And so shortly thereafter, the SMSE group, your Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Group, got it on the first try, had already been talking about that great documentary, A Race, The Power of an Illusion. That really it's educational beyond belief to say, because I have a hard time figuring out, how are we still here? How is this happening in 2022? And it's a very good educational experience that helps us understand. And by the way, we know that racism isn't contained just to Black people. It's people of the various cultured experiences in this country. So it was very informative and helped me to understand how I could be part of the solution instead of, I don't want to talk about it, it makes me uncomfortable. Why is this happening? I'm not racist, all that sort of stuff. So it's an entry point to that conversation I encourage you to take if you are at. And I want to say that this place is what got me into that conversation to begin with. I had several years of people in my own life who had experiences that I could not identify with and felt really afraid of and felt inept to know how to address it as a white person. I felt completely inept. And I remember seeing that poster said, "White people, please do something." And I thought, oh God, that's me. What does it mean? What do I do? And why am I so uncomfortable? And why does it make everybody around me uncomfortable? Well, I probably need to talk about that. And so it was that series that we did, Waking Up White, that got me into the conversation, that got me through, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to look at this. I don't understand this. How is some of this in me? We're breathing this societal air. It's nobody's fault. I think the fault is if we won't look at it. If we won't say, how does this get in me? And how can I, what happens when you begin to see that in you, the experiences that you see of others shift. Because you see the lens you've been seeing it through. Through not purposefully, but it's powerful. So if any of you are interested in that, I support you in doing that, and know that it is not my intention, or certainly the work of the SMSE group, to focus on differences, but to learn about how life is experienced differently by many groups, so that we can be together in a way that is respectful and mindful and educated, and not showing up in ways that inadvertently and accidentally hurt people. That's not what we want to do. So that's what that is all about. So the SMSE group is one way that you can live the truth that you know. That's one group that's happened here. We also had some service groups. I don't know if you've seen around here. We've painted. We've moved a whole bunch of rocks. These people showed up, like 15 people. I know. I have a slide for that later, so I'm going to just stop the applause. I'll show you. So here's the most important thing, I think, is that we're willing to do our inner work, regardless of where we're at with that, regardless of what issue is on our hearts. It could just be in our own life. It could be we continue to show up in our relationships or in certain circumstances where we keep having this situation, this experience that is not, we know it's not in our best interest. We know we're not showing up in our best capacity. How can we do some inner work to reconnect with this truth of who we are so that we can show up more fully into all of those aspects, including some of these bigger ones that we've talked about? And so I have an opportunity as we take some time in meditation. I'm going to lead you through the four, Ellen puts it forward as kind of a checklist for working with these four principles, how we employ this truth that we know. So taking a situation that you might be dealing with, working with, struggling with, I'm going to ask that you make it about a 3 or a 4. Nothing that's just like, because we're practicing, right? And we'll walk through how we can apply these 4 steps, these 4 principles that we've been learning to an experience or a situation that you're dealing with personally, okay? So to get ready for that, Robert will lead us in a little meditative song. I'm going to turn the AC on.
You're welcome to sing this with me. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God.
Just relax into that idea that we are living in the heart of God, that all of creation is an expression of all that we can imagine God to be. Most frequently, we think of that as love. And so we relax into that awareness that behind all that we experience, all that we see, all that we even think and feel, there is the energy of divine intelligence. And its nature is to work through all that exists, to expand more of itself, more of that love, more of that intelligence, more of that harmony, more of that peace, all that you can imagine it to be. That's the truth that we're working to integrate into our life as our foundation for all that we do, for all that we say and all that we are, rests upon that truth. And so as you find your way home to that place within you that knows this, no matter what's happening outward, there's part of you that knows this to be true and knows that it is the truth of you. And so as staying centered in that place within you that knows, you can bring to mind this situation on your heart or your mind that you'd like to work through this application in this time. Just bring to mind whatever it is. You don't need a ton of details, but you can attach to the story a bit. And this is the first step, and it can be the hardest. But no matter what you're picturing there or identifying with, can you look at that situation and still affirm divine intelligence and love at work? Even if you can't see it, even if you disagree with it, how the situation is going. If that is the truth, then it is the truth in that situation as well. So affirm divine intelligence and love is present in that situation. And from that, the question is, can you have faith that there is indeed a creative intelligence working in and through that situation, regardless of how it appears to you? Can you trust that? And going on to apply principle 2, looking at this situation, can you remember your own divinity and that of any others involved? Regardless of if you see it, can you remember that that's true? And then applying principle number 3, can you take some responsibility for attracting this situation into your experience? Not creating it, but some part of your consciousness is ready to grow. So can you take responsibility that there is something in this that has brought this to you, and that its outcome is ultimately for you? As you do that, your thoughts and your feelings about it change, don't they? Again, that's what it feels like to put our ego in service of our soul. And as you contemplate then what is yours to do, our 4th principle is, have you aligned yourself with God, with the universe, with good, to receive guidance before you've acted? And if you haven't, you can do it now. Show me, lead me, guide me, inform me of what is mine to do in this situation from the perspective that I am an expression of divine intelligence and divine love. And so I open up to a higher knowing, one that is not visible in the details, one that I may not see if I'm seeped in my judgments and opinions or my fear. So again, I reestablish myself in the truth of who and what I am. And I open up for guidance from that perspective in the silence. And we trust that whatever's making its way into our awareness is exactly what is needed. And we can continue to work with this process and with this situation whenever we are called to do that, to to get centered in the truth that we know, and to ask for guidance how to live into that in this situation, how to express it. We're reminded again of the power of love as a divine idea. As we're grounded in that, it is the power that joins and binds in divine harmony the universe and everything in it. And so as we're centered in that divine love over any invitation to center in fear, we are empowered. We are strengthened and renewed. And we are guided. And we are reminded that we are living in the heart of God.
We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God. We are living, we are living, we are living in the heart of God.
I just invite you to take a deep breath and bring your awareness back to this time and space, opening your eyes. As I've said, I will give you a few quick announcements as the ushers prepare to take the offering, which you have a few moments for. Whoops. Nope. You can go back to the SMSE slide, please. That spiritually motivated social engagement team that I mentioned is meeting today. Always looking for opportunities to learn and grow together and how to express being in loving service to all beings and the earth. So they'll be meeting in the Children's Garden at 11:30. You are welcome to join them. And I already mentioned the several things that they've put forward that you can consider joining. Those are also in your bulletin. And then I did want to give an official thanks to those of you who showed up to move all those rocks. I thought I had a slide for that. No slide? Okay. Well, I forgot Joe Payne. There was a picture of you all in the newsletter, and I forgot Joe Payne's name in there, so I want to make a public announcement that Joe Payne was there. You can see him in the picture. And the final opportunity to do that, we'll be finishing those rocks on the west side, is June 16th. We'll get some more brats. You can bring your beer. We've got the buckets. We had root beer. And we'll finish that job and move forward with creating our playscape, our natural playscape out on the west side. So we are super excited about that. As you are preparing for your offering today, I know many of you give online, which we thank you for. Those of you who are watching online can do that via the ways you see on your screen, and certainly those of you in-house can also give online with your mobile device through our app, which I know you have, and I'll tell you all about it if you don't have it. And our ushers will be coming through to collect cash and check as well. And just an update on our Pandemic Recovery Fund, which is a matching fund with the goal of, can you give me a drum roll there? Oh, Mr. Kidd. All I could come up with was Kidd. Thank you. $11,145 is our total. And that is an opportunity to match any additional offering that you give above your normal giving to be matched up to $35,000, which allows us to capitalize on $70,000 And you'll be hearing a little bit more about what we want to do with some of that money. If some of it is, of course, in reimagining our space and other opportunities. So I believe Nancy Smith, your president, will be giving you an update on that on June 19th. So if you'd like to give in that, you can just put match on your memo line, and that will know that your additional offering will be matched, and we thank you for doing that.
I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. Sounds good. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. All right, sing it like you mean it. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. Here we go. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. Let me hear you clap. I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you, Robert. Speaking of doing some good, I wanted to acknowledge that many of you stayed for our core values conversation, fellowship and conversation on the 22nd. And we are sifting through all that feedback and recommendations to sort of figure out how we can present that to you, prioritize what we want to start with. And we're going to do that on June 26th with a potluck for the people. All right. So we're going to have a potluck for fellowship that day. Please sign up to bring something. We'll have a fuller meal together. We'll sort of give you an update on, it's sort of the 6-month mark of the year, where we are, what we hope to do with the remainder of the year, what sort of came of those conversations, what's up for you all, what you'd like to see us be doing more of or less of, that sort of thing. So it'll be a little time for us to communicate with you, have you ask your questions. We can answer your questions and take your feedback then as well. So there's a big sign up out by fellowship today if you want to sign up to bring something. And just save the date, June 26th, for Communication Potluck Day. Yeah. Ooh, that was amazing. That really hit it out of the park. All right, let's close with our prayer for protection together. We can stand up and affirm and know this to be true. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. As light, I illumine my world. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. As love, I live empathy, understanding, and compassion. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. As power, I co-create a world of love unity, and equality for all. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. As presence, I stand in truth in every circumstance. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. We'll close with, the peace love song. Who knows which one? It's going to be. There we go.
Let there be love.